Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Planet X News. This is Scott from the Nibiru channel, August 7th, 2017. And ladies and gentlemen, once again, I've made a pretty big discovery, I think. And after reviewing the photographs with the doctor and a few others, we seem to have, once again, solid evidence and proof that there is a massive planetary body behind our sun. I mean, the photographs that I captured today on the Solar Dynamics Observatory were just absolutely stunning. Now, there will be some that will say, oh, you know, it is something with the camera, or, you know, it's a plasma loop or something of that nature. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's just cut right to the chase. If you know what a plasma loop is, if you know what a plasma loop looks like, they don't look like any of the photographs that I'm about to show you. Now, each and every one of you can check the photograph out yourself on the Solar Dynamics Observatory, the SDO. And this was a still photograph that was captured earlier this morning. And it's what they call one of their layover photographs, where they actually take three different versions of their photography from the craft. I believe it's in 3 different angstroms, and they overlay the photographs. And they're quite colorful. And they're pretty cool to look at. And I look at them every single morning. And lo and behold, as I was reviewing the photograph in high definition, bingo, there it was, once again. Now, this object was in the 11 o'clock position. You can clearly see that it is behind the sun somewhat. And the doctor tried to make some calculations on its size and possibly even the distance that this object is behind the sun. And ladies and gentlemen, we know that there are some pretty big objects out there and a lot of smaller objects, and we know that they are interfering with the sun. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And one thing that I want to touch on very quickly, and I'm sure probably each and every one of you realize what is happening around the world right now with the weather and how extreme things are. 2/3 of the United States is now dropping into, well, let's just say very cold temperatures, unseasonably cold, 25 degrees below the averages for the beginning of August. And if anybody knows what it's like in the United States in the month of August, well, it happens to be the beginning of our warmest months here in the United States during the summer. Now, where I live, I mean, I should have an average temperature pretty close to 90 degrees. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, it's 65 degrees outside. 65. We're going to go over some weather after we get through these photographs, because I know all of you want to see what I captured. And it's pretty amazing. Scary, but it's also amazing. I don't think there's any threat that any of these objects are going to, quote, crash into our planet, but there will definitely be effects on our sun, which in turn affects our planet. Good afternoon, Doctor. How are you?
Good afternoon, Scott. I'm very well, thank you. And how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Early this morning, whenever I emailed you those photographs, what was the first thing that came to your mind?
I thought, oh my goodness, that's the blue one again. It's about the same size. It seems to be right behind the sun, still very close to the sun, which I think would be what is expected. These objects are obviously attracted to the sun. They're lightning in the sun's corona. That's where they can absorb energy from the sun. So I believe it's the same object. It's just moved a little bit behind the sun. It's still right there, very close to the sun's corona.
Yeah, there's absolutely no doubt about that. So, you know, without further ado, let's get to the first photograph, because I want to see him again. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I mention this a lot whenever I say that, you know, there must be a higher power driving me in some way, because, you know, at 3 o'clock this morning, I was sound asleep, and something just woke me up. I already had the thought in my mind to go over, fire up my computer, and immediately go to the Solar Dynamic Observatory, the SDO, and pull up this one and only still image, this composite image. And what you're looking at right now, where the big yellow arrow is the object that I spotted immediately. Now, I was able to capture pretty high definition photographs of this object, and that will allow us to zoom in. Now, I did take a series of screenshots and screen captures of this object, and some of them I did work with the color a little bit because I wanted to make sure what I was seeing was actually there. And I'm going to show you all of those photographs, and I'm also going to show you the original. And if anybody wants to see the original, it will be posted on the Planet X News Facebook page, and any of you can copy the photograph, download it for yourself, and examine it for yourself. So, Doctor, just looking at this first picture, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Can you, I mean, without that yellow arrow there, whenever I just sent you the raw photographs?
I saw it without the yellow arrow first, and I could immediately make the circular outline inside the sun's corona. So there's definitely a spherical object there. That's what I noticed.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. I'm going to flip to this next picture. And what I did is I inserted a circle, and I tried to size the circle with the top of the arch of what was actually visible.
Yes.
And I think I got it pretty close to that arch. It actually fit perfectly on that object, which definitely tells me that that was no type of plasma loop whatsoever. And those plasma loops usually come in, you know, pairs, and several of them at one time occurring, and they're very distinguishable. So I put this ring, this circle, over the top of the object from end to end, and it fit perfect. So that would be kind of the perspective if we were looking at the object in front of the sun. So, I mean, it's not 100% accurate, but it's an approximate size based on its distance from the sun in the image. So we're going to go ahead and move to the next photograph. Now, this is the original photograph. Okay, this is all you get. That's it. And if you can just follow my cursor, right down below here, you're going to see a set of numbers and letters. Okay, this is the SDO A1A 211, and this is the date and time stamp right there. And that is in UTC time. Now, the reason why you see it in these different times and the different colors is this is an overlay image. As I told you, it is the 211, the 193, and the 171 angstrom views. So it's different colors overlaid on top of each other to give you this view. And what I was originally doing yesterday, and if any of you looked at my video that I made yesterday about the sunspot and the super high definition photographs that I was able to capture, it was pretty amazing. And last night I was looking right here,
Yes.
at this big brown swirly looking object that just doesn't even look normal. But that's a whole nother story. But I started to look up here towards the upper left-hand corner about the 11 o'clock position. And I noticed that arch. And again, ladies and gentlemen, I look at these photographs every single day, sometimes for hours on end. And I decided, okay, I better zoom in on that because that does not look normal. And lo and behold, what do I see? Is I see this object right there.
It's definitely there.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And I started thinking to myself, oh boy, you know, this is not good. But in the other sense, at least we are still able to continue to prove that there's something out there. There's a lot out there.
Oh, yes.
That we don't know about. Now, this particular photograph, I will be posting this photograph right here. I'll post this on the Facebook page, the Planet X News Facebook page. Any of you can go there, copy it, download it, and work with the photograph yourself and see what you come up with. But this is the original photograph. Now, again, these photographs haven't been touched. You're looking at exactly what I was looking at. Absolutely incredible. Now, this is a black and white.
Yes.
So I wanted to continue to try and, well, just tell myself, hey, am I really seeing what I'm seeing? And then you can clearly see the perfect arch, the perfect circle, but it's slightly behind the sun. In this next photograph here, the reason why you see some of this pink color that has been instituted into this frame is because it's called solarizing the image. It's just a picture filter technique. So as I applied that and I zoomed in, well, there you go. It didn't change it much, but it gave me more of a clear definition of the circular object that is behind the sun. And you're not going to see anything like that stretching from one end to one end like a plasma loop. They're nothing like that. Nothing at all. We'll move to the next photograph real quick.
Yeah.
Now, this was inverted. Now, this will tell you, and this will show you, if that was one of the plasma loops stretching end to end, it would be black. It would be dark like the rest of the surface of the sun. But it is not. Doctor, I'm going to leave this up to you. What do you think?
Well, I see an object there. It's perfectly clear to me that it's an object. It's got the circular outline. It actually looks spherical because of the shadowing on the outer edge of it. So it's definitely an object, and it's very large. It's in the sun's corona. And as you know, I always like to mention the fact that these cannot be planets. Planets would not survive in the sun's corona, not even gas giant planets, not even brown dwarfs, I believe, can survive in the sun's corona. It goes up to a temperature of 3 million degrees Kelvin. Anything that is a gas or solid, a rocky planet, would be basically liquefied, vaporized, and turned into plasma and absorbed by the sun. So this is not a planet. This is what I call a stellar core. In other words, it's a star. It's what's left of a star once it started its aging process and it lost its outer layers of gas, went through the red giant phase, the white dwarf phase, and then it cooled down and became a brown dwarf star. This is what I believe it is. I've been writing about it for quite a while. This is what my book is about. Well, it's my story plus my discovery about what these objects are. So yeah, this is what I've been studying for over a year now. It's these objects and what they are doing to the sun. And what they are doing is exchanging plasma with the sun. They are dark. They don't have much energy because they are old, but they come up to the sun and they start absorbing energy, because one of the things they have is a high magnetic field. They connect magnetically to the sun, draw the sun's magnetic field outwards towards themselves. Then the magnetic field lines close at the object. Then the particles spiral along the outgoing magnetic field lines towards the object. So they leave the sun and they enter, they become part of this object's ionized cloud or plasma. Whilst this object's own ionized particles leave along the returning field lines and go to the sun, get absorbed by the sun. Okay, and then what would we expect to happen to the sun? We would expect the sun to become darker like these objects, and these objects to become brighter than they are now. So move towards the brightness that the sun has. In whatever...
Hey, Doc, I'm losing you on your microphone feed. Doc, check your microphone. You're not coming in.
Oh, okay.
There you go. You might have a loose wire there, so we lost you for a few seconds.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was the last thing I said?
It just sounded like.
All right. So I was just mentioning how the sun loses its own plasma and these objects gain it, and so they become bright and the sun becomes darker.
Now, this photograph here, this had another filter applied to it. Mm-hmm. And when I was looking at this and I was blowing it up, and I just said to myself, oh, my Lord, you know, it's just, yeah.
Yeah,
that's what I said. I got a little speechless there. I got a little speechless for a few minutes earlier this morning. And
yeah. I mean, look at the huge size in variation in these objects. We have Earth-sized objects, which is to be expected because don't forget white dwarf stars, or most of the white dwarf stars that have been studied are about the size of the Earth. We now have these similar objects, but extremely large, that are also stellar cores and also absorb plasma from the sun. But yet they are huge. So where do they come from? They have to be the cores of much larger stars. And perhaps most of the stars in the galaxy are about the size of the sun, and therefore when they start aging, they become these small stellar cores. Whilst the very large stars, and we have some very large stars in the galaxy that are some 1,000 times larger than our sun. And these would, when they start the aging process and go through it and end up with a stellar cores about this size. That's
how far would you be able to, maybe judge how far that is behind the sun? I mean, it looks awful close. I know the perspective of these satellite cameras and the lighting and the whole 9 yards. But,
so
looks close.
I can tell you what it looks like to me, because first of all, you have part of the sun's corona in front of the object. And you can actually see the edge of the object and you can see corona behind it. So to me, this object is in the sun's corona. So it's so close. And also these objects draw the sun's corona towards them because they connected magnetically. And remember, then the coronal particles would spiral along the magnetic field lines and then end up enveloping these objects. And we saw that with the photograph from Germany about the blue stellar core that you first photographed. So this object, I think, is extremely close to the surface of the sun. It's just more on the backside, not on the front side where we saw it before, where we photographed it before. It could also be another one. It doesn't necessarily have to be the blue one. I think it is about the same size as the blue one. But looking at its size, if it's right up against the sun, this one may actually be a little smaller, say a quarter of the size of the sun, and the blue ones seem to be about a third of the size. So this may be another one.
It definitely looks pretty big to me. I mean,
it's extremely large. We don't have planets of this size. I mean, I've never heard of planets of this size. Brown dwarfs are usually about the same size as Jupiter. This object is much larger than Jupiter. So
yeah, I'd say so. I'd say so. You could probably fit several Jupiters, across the belly of this monster. You know, ladies and gentlemen, you know, we're seeing so much, and so much evidence is coming in. I'm doing my damnedest to research and investigate and show this evidence. And the doctor, she's definitely doing her part and then some. And I want to mention one thing before we continue. And I've mentioned this before, you know, if we were just some dumb YouTube channel, you know, with like the whole make-believe Mary Poppins, Alice in Wonderland type crap, nobody would be trying to shut us down. Nobody would be trying to silence us. Mm-hmm. Yesterday morning, I went to access my email for the my YouTube channel, the Nibiru channel, and all of the emails, 5,334 emails, once again, were gone. Totally erased. Everything in the Nibiru channel Gmail account had been erased. I looked under my other account, my other personal Gmail account, and I had a notification from Google that my email address had been accessed from a town in the UK called Shrewsbury over in the UK. And it just so happens within about 15 or 20 minutes of me finding that out, I see a notification from one of these troll accounts. The woman goes by the name of Twiggy. Oh, bloody Twiggy. Well, Twiggy's a real idiot. And she was putting up a video showing my internal email account. Twiggy. It was bloody Twiggy. So I notified Google, you know, that was not me logging in from Shrewsbury in the UK. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can clearly see that we have always been on to something from day one. And these troll factions want to stop it because that's their job. Now, I had to go out early this morning. Once again, you know, had to spend even more money on upgraded malware and security software for my computer. And the same thing applied for the doctor. So, if any of you happen to get weird emails, just erase them. Don't even open them, delete them immediately. And don't answer any emails from people that you do not know, because you don't know what these people are actually up to. But, you know, I got to give a heads up to Google. Even though they didn't prevent my email address from being hacked, and erased, at least they were able to track where the email login was performed, and that was performed in Shrewsbury, the UK. And this little Twiggy, she's kind of notorious for her stupid little debunking videos, and she's actually like into witchcraft and like satanic stuff. If you look at her personal Facebook page and her blog, she's really into like this satanic stuff. So it's kind of weird, but that's what these people do. They don't believe in Christianity. They believe in these, weird satanic cult witchcraft type things. But if any of you sent me emails in the last couple of weeks, I think as of about 6 o'clock this morning, Eastern time, I'm not going to get them. So they're gone. But this is one of the main reasons why, folks, what you're looking at on your screen. Look at the weather. Look at the weather. Look what is happening around the world. I got an email from one of my Australian subscribers, and they were talking about it snowed in Australia like a blizzard, and they had these wild thunder snow situations. I've only experienced that a few times in my life. Thunder snow in Australia.
Yeah.
2/3 of the United States, 25 degrees below normal in temperature in the beginning of August. Wild weather all over the world. The sky's opening up, dumping buckets of rain in minutes. New Orleans, underwater. Pictures of people rowing boats down the streets in the Big Easy. I watched a video late yesterday of a man videotaping baseball-sized hail coming down. I think it was in a Latin American country. And I don't know what the guy was thinking, but he tried to run out into the yard and back, and he ended up getting hit in the head with one of these baseball-size chunks of ice. I'm also going to show you what's been happening to airliners, jumbo jets that are carrying passengers in flight around the world. And when you see the damage to these airplanes, you may want to think twice about taking flight. So the fact of the matter is, this is nobody's imagination. This is everybody's nightmare. Everybody, every living human being on the face of this planet is under some type of threat, one way or another. Massive, massive tornado ripped through, I think, in Oklahoma City. Devastating. Now, people say, well, Oklahoma, they get tornadoes. I didn't have a chance to read the article, but they said that there were two things that were very strange about this particular tornado. Yesterday, me and the doctor were analyzing temperatures in the North Pole. And doctor, you want to elaborate on those temperatures in the North Pole?
Well, the temperatures were above freezing, which is very strange. I don't think we're supposed to have temperatures of above 32 in the North Pole. And yet in Greenland, which was further south, it was way below freezing. So I thought that was very strange. And that to me indicates that the Earth wobble is getting worse. There's these huge variations in temperature. I saw that South Africa was going through a very cold spell, and that was strange as well. It's not usually that cold at this time of the year there, although it is winter. So the weather is very strange everywhere. It's yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. It's definitely getting really, really weird everywhere. You know, I saw a headline earlier on the Sign of the Times talking about what was the headline? It had something to do with Australia's meteorology department or society, whatever the heck it was, talking about hiding weather information. It came to an end. They actually admitted to skewing reports on the weather in Australia. It came to an end yesterday or the day before, and then it snowed. And it snowed bad.
Wow.
Really bad. Let's take a quick look at some of what's going on here. I can't even pronounce the name of that town in Russia. But as you can see,
Usurisk.
Yeah, you do that with your foreign accent, Doctor.
Oh my goodness, look at that.
So you can see that's underwater. There's a story about a bald eagle there, though, that was kind of trapped in some water-related issue, and they saved
New South Wales.
Yeah, here you go, folks. New South Wales and Victoria rocked by 2 rare thunder snowstorms in Australia.
Oh my.
That freaking picture looks like the northeast part of the United States in the dead of January.
Wow.
That's what you have to look forward to there, Doctor.
Well, it does look like the South Pole has moved towards Australia. Because it doesn't usually snow in Australia. So this is very strange.
Here's another headline under there. It says, one of the world's most reclusive storms hits Australia in the past 24 hours. Twice.
My goodness.
Twice. Here's an interesting article that was right below it. Lightning caused 19 fires in 24 hours across Manitoba, Canada.
Wow.
There you go. Burning like hell. Here you go. Down in the Big Easy. Heavy rainfall causes severe flooding in much of New Orleans. 5 inches of rain in 3 hours.
Wow.
Folks, you could probably take a pretty good sized boat right down that street with no problem. No problem whatsoever. So these here's this buddy boy. You know, he's out there in New Orleans. He's kicked back in his little canoe.
Yeah, I also believe that it's very hot in Washington when it's not supposed to be that hot at this time of the year.
Yeah, there are areas of the United States out there on the in the upper northwest that are under extreme heat, while the other 2/3 of the United States is, as we say, kind of chilly. It's kind of cold.
Yes.
Now, also yesterday, there was a magnitude 5.8 earthquake out there in the Indian Ocean. And that was definitely something that they were keeping their eye on, because that can cause a lot of tsunami damage if those earthquakes get bigger. And there was an EF2 tornado that ripped through Tulsa, Oklahoma, injuring 30. Was unusual in 2 ways. Now, that's a TGI Fridays, one of my favorite restaurants, ripped the hell and back. I didn't get to read this this article before we went on the air, so I don't know what they meant by it was unusual in 2 ways. But let me see if I could just peruse down here and see if I could just see what the unusual part of it was. Well, maybe I have to read that later. You guys can find this on the Sign of the Times website. Really, really good website. Now, this one's going to shake a few people because I've been getting a lot of emails asking me about, is it safe to fly in airplanes? Mm-hmm. Well, I used to fly for a living. I always hated it. I would never get it in an airplane ever again because of the cosmic radiation, the radiation levels now. But after seeing this article, dated for August 6th, 2007, or 2017, I'm sorry. I'm just looking at the noses of these airplanes, and they were completely caved in. The windshield smashed and disintegrated. Larger hail damaging aircraft.
My
with increased emergency landings worldwide.
Yeah.
Worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the front of that damn airplane.
Oh my goodness.
It says click to enlarge. Let's see. Oh, there you go. Look at that. Mm-hmm. Could you imagine what that would sound like?
Yeah.
If you were a passenger, let alone being the pilot?
That's right.
It has stripped the paint off of the nose of that airplane and caved it in.
Wow.
Caved it in. So, to all of you that have those questions for me about, do you think it's safe to fly? Based on what you're seeing right now, folks, hell no. Yeah. I don't think that it is safe to fly. Based on the radiation levels and based on what's occurring with the weather, you could offer me a free trip to Paris, all expenses paid, and I'd have to turn you down because you're not getting me on a plane to cross over the pond. Mm-hmm. What about you, Doctor? Would you get back on a plane right now?
Well, I don't think so. I would prefer not to. You know, there were these reports that the cosmic radiation had increased by 13% on the West Coast and 19% on the East Coast. These are, as I mentioned before, catastrophic kinds of increases. And we have to realize that the further up you go, the more cosmic rays you are going to be hit with. So, yes, I think it's something to be avoided.
Yeah, you wouldn't catch me. You would have to drag me on the plane, screaming and yelling.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't happening. Now, this is coming out of Colorado. It's August, and there was snow over the Monarch Pass in Colorado. Some people would say, oh, big deal. Yeah, well, not in August. Look at that. That looks like a scene right out of the wintertime in the state of Colorado. Mm-hmm. Rocky Mountain State. August, it's winter. Huh.
Unbelievable.
Well, alrighty then. What's this headline? Did you see this over Detroit? Meteorologist explains halo around the sun. Mm. First time I don't see no sun. Mm. I see some pretty freaky looking clouds. But if any of you want to read this article, it is up on the Sign of the Times. Very, very good website, by the way. Ice, fire, and funnel clouds. Severe weather pounds Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Mm. You know, temperatures are pretty warm up there in Canada. We were looking at the northern, very, very northern territories of Canada up near the North Pole region. And, yeah, they were in like the upper 70s. Mm-hmm. Doctor, do you remember some of the temperatures that we were looking at in the North Pole region yesterday? 34, 35, 37?
Yes, I definitely remember that. I remember that they were definitely above freezing. And I really, not even in summer, we're supposed to get temperatures above freezing at the North Pole. This is unbelievable. This is a sign that the Earth's pole has shifted away from where it's supposed to be. It's no longer at the geographic position that we associate with the North Pole. It has moved, and therefore the North Pole is no longer the coldest place at the top of the world, because that's not the North Pole anymore. And I think that's why it's warming up. Don't forget that the North Pole is ocean. There's no real landmass there, and we do know that the oceans are warming up because the volcanoes at the bottom of the ocean, on the sea floors, are erupting. And so there's a lot of magma going, a lot of lava coming out of these volcanoes and warming up the oceans. So of course we'd expect the ocean to warm up, and therefore the sea ice to melt from the bottom. I think this is partly what's happening at the North Pole. But the other thing is that, and we see this everywhere around the world, is that the weather has gone crazy because the Earth is wobbling. And there are other signs. I think people have been reporting about the Schumann resonance, and that is to do with the size of the cavity. And the cavity is the space between the top of the ionosphere and the surface of the Earth. And then we get standing waves between the two. And when the size of the cavity changes, then the frequency at which you get these standing waves changes. And because we know the frequency changing, we know the size of the cavity has changed. So basically what I think is happening is that our ionosphere is getting so charged that it's increasing in size and moving down towards the surface of the Earth. So that would also create extreme changes in the weather patterns, because whatever currents we have in the ionosphere, and especially if the atmosphere is compressed downwards, as that reveals, that would create changing wind currents, and it will increase the currents in the atmosphere, which would therefore increase lightning. And of course, we would have increased nucleation because of the cosmic rays. So we have more cloud, we'd have more hail, and we are seeing all this happen everywhere around the world.
Let me ask you something, Doctor. So all of the years that you spent in South Africa and Mozambique, you know what those little critters are right there.
Monkeys.
You
Yes.
see a lot of those running around the streets every now and then, right?
Well, I did see a lot of them in Mozambique, but not in the streets around here.
Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take a very, very clear look at this monkey. And this is actually what the trolls really look like. This is what they look like when they're sitting at their keyboard, plotting and planning against myself, the doctor, and each and every one of you. That's what they look like. Right there. Anyways, on another note, once again, earthquake activity is starting to rock and roll around the planet in strange places. Over the course of the last 72 hours, Australia back in the news, but with earthquakes. Now, over the last 72 hours, I've seen all kinds of earthquakes popping off in Australia. Now, this is August 6th. Earthquakes in strange places is the headline. Shallow magnitude 5.1 shakes the second largest meteor crater in the world in Western Australia. 4.9. Man, you know, they usually get like little ones every now and then.
Yeah.
But a 4.9?
Yes.
Anybody living around that area probably thought, oh boy.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting photograph here. It says flashback. What is that? The funnel of a cruise ship struck by lightning bursts into flames in Genoa in Italy. Oh
wow.
My God.
My goodness.
Look at the lightning strike. And we've been seeing this massive increase in lightning strikes. I mean, I'll tell you the truth. Out of anywhere on this planet where they are taking the worst hits of lightning casualties, meaning people dying, is over in India. There's a pretty cool video here. If any of you guys are interested, head over to Sign of the Times newspaper website. They cover all kinds of activities like this all around the world. Very, very good website. What's this? Bear attack. Yeah, there seems to be a lot of animal attacks on the rise. That article about the monkeys was actually talking about how vicious the monkeys have been, and they're attacking people. This is heavy rainfall causing flooding in southern Sweden. I mean, I think this guy's driving on the sidewalk because the overpass is completely flooded.
That's right.
You don't hear too many floods in Sweden. Wow, that bus just went through there, and it seemed to have made it. 2 die and 9 missing after Typhoon Nora lashes southern Japan. August 6th. Sweden. Oh, my. Sweden factory forced to close after huge sinkhole emerges near the building. Look at the size of that hole.
Wow.
See if we can blow that up a little bit. Wow. Could you imagine if people were actually standing there? They could have probably gotten killed.
Yes. It looks huge.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, folks, there are things cracking off all over the planet. And like I said the other day, just because nothing's happening like directly in your neighborhood, listen, don't put anything past it. The people that you're seeing that are in some of these news stories, they were probably thinking the same thing when they woke up that morning, and went to work, or they're going about their daily business, and then boom, all of a sudden, one of these natural disasters comes out of nowhere in the form of Mother Nature. I mean, just absolutely incredible to see what is happening around the world. It
is indeed, Scott. It's amazing.
Now, we had some controversy over this the other day, and Scottish Highlands are rocked by the biggest earthquake in 30 years. Okay. Now, I saw some of the troll channels going absolutely nuts over this because a lot of these idiots live over there in the UK, Scotland, and blah, blah, blah. And they all, converse together. And they were arguing that earthquakes occur in Scotland all of the time, but nobody ever reports on them. Okay, whatever. But a magnitude 3.8 that rocked this area is something to be, reported, and it was reported on. I've been following earthquake activity for a long period of time. I really never heard of 4,000 earthquakes a year occurring in the country of Scotland. But a 3.8, definitely something to, no pun intended, but shake you up.
Yeah.
Here's something that's very odd. What is this? Lucifer heat wave bakes Europe, causing scientists to predict massive number of deaths by 2100.
Wow.
Yeah. Once again, who the hell is looking forward to the year 2100? All of us will be dead by then of old age. Let's talk about what's happening right now. More flooding. California flood leaves commuters stranded. Look at that. Are they picking that guy up? Where is that? Oh, that guy's standing in the water. I thought maybe he was like an air rescue, in an air rescue situation. Look at this. Freaky fognado blows over Santa Cruz, California. Now, folks, imagine you're standing on the shore, the beach in California, and you see that long monster stretching from one end to the other. I wouldn't be standing on the beach. I would run. To me, that looks like a freaking tidal wave.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah,
It's a fog bank.
yeah, absolutely. You know, I was watching some video, ladies and gentlemen, the other day of Las Vegas and what's happening in the state of Nevada. 1 missing, 7 rescued after flash flooding near Las Vegas Strip. Las Vegas.
Wow.
Yeah, remember? It's out in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, here's a whole video on it.
Well, it's not supposed to rain very much in the desert, that I know. That's why it's a desert.
Flash flood turns Brooklyn, New York stairwell into urban waterfall. Yeah, look at that.
Wow.
You don't have too many waterfalls in Brooklyn, people. But let me tell you something. On this day, they had a waterfall coming right at you. Climate chaos, wild weather happening everywhere. Everywhere. What's this? A rampaging elephant. Yeah, there's something going on with the animals, folks.
Yeah.
I'm hearing more and more and more about this, the things that are happening with animals. Animals kind of freaking out, you know,
Yeah.
just doing things that they normally wouldn't be doing, and that's a shame.
Mm-hmm.
That some of these things are happening. Rare heat burst event causes overnight temperature spike in Vacaville, California. 108 degrees. What the?
Wow. Unbelievable.
What in the hell is going on, folks? Well, we already know what's going on. I mean, we were just looking at the images, and we're going to go back to those. We're going to go back to those right now. So the fact of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, this was the photograph that I captured today, early this morning, on the SDO, Solar Dynamics Observatory.
Mm-hmm.
This was a composite photograph of the sun.
Yeah, and we have that huge object in the sun's corona, which is, again, an amazing discovery, Scott. You keep doing that.
Yeah, like I said, you know, there is just something that wakes me up. It tells me, you know, I guess internally in my brain,
yes,
to you know, go directly to these photographs, you know, and this was a 1 in a million shot. Anybody else would have just not even looked at this photograph. I'm sure the people at NASA and all their graphic artists missed this one again. And here I am, like a suppository right up their rear end, you know, and here we are showing the people what there is out there. Call it a second sun, call it Nibiru, call it Wormwood, call it Planet X. Bottom line is, there's a monster out there. It's situated behind our sun. It probably has numerous smaller stellar objects hanging around with it.
Probably,
We've been seeing them with the other views of the sun. So, you know, Doctor, the live stream we did the other day, I know you've been working on a paper. It's not completely done yet.
Yes.
You want to touch on some of the observations that you were making on those photographs?
Yes, so it's about those the green images, the stereo A195 angstrom extreme ultraviolet images, and I was examining the objects. They are obviously three-dimensional. A lot of them, it's quite clear they are immersed in the sun's corona. Some of them are directly connected to the sun. I think you have an amazing one where you actually see one of these objects. Oh, this looks like 2 objects connecting to each other. They connect to each other with using plasma, because the plasma spirals along the magnetic field lines. You can see the structure around it. You can see it's about the same color as some of the sun's corona. So this is basically objects surrounded by plasma and interact. Yes, this is the one. there's definitely a plasma connection between this object and the sun. You can see it here. So this object seems to be drawing plasma from the sun, and we know where it is because it's directly connected to the sun. We cannot say that it's far in front of the sun because it's connected to the sun. So this is one of them, and they look small. They're not that small. They're about the size of the Earth. But then that's the size that we'd expect white dwarf stars to have. I now believe that we get objects that may have, at a certain point, become white dwarf stars, except because they are aging stars, and a white dwarf star is basically a core with a thin envelope around it. And these huge big ones are basically that. They are a core with a thin envelope of material around them. And that's what we saw with the blue stellar core. Some of these seem to have so much structure that I have come to think that they are clustering around each other, which is amazing. As you can see, there's the bright object in the center there. Now, the fact that they have bright centers indicates that they've been at the sun long enough to absorb enough energy to be able to start emitting light from the core. So these are objects that have been here for a while. There was an image that I saw where there was one with a bright central core, and then there were 4 around it. So that shows how these objects cluster. Again, they connect magnetically. I think they are some toys for children where you play with magnets and you can make different patterns with the magnets. So basically, these objects are behaving like little magnets connecting to each other. Here, and then they have a more irregular shaped cloud of ionized gas. It's part of what's remaining of the gas that used to be part of the star when it was in the main sequence phase. So we see all this with these objects, things that I have been talking about for many months now. And for me, it's just amazing to see what I have been thinking was happening in the solar system. For a while, all I saw was the effects of what these objects were causing, and caused me to think what they were like. Now, this is extremely interesting because this is the area around the Sunspot group, which was first named AR2665, which had some extremely large CMEs. So this is the Sunspot group has spread out a little bit more, but this brown, I was wondering what it was. I looked at it carefully. It's not a coronal hole, even though it's much darker than the rest of the corona we see in this image. And to me, and then I suddenly thought of what it was. Remember that on the 23rd of July, there was a very large object close to the sunspot, and it experienced a huge CME. And we now know that these objects, of course, exchange plasma with the sun. And I believe what's left here is the plasma that came from these objects. And as you can see, it's much darker than the rest of the sun. And this is to be expected because these objects are much darker than the sun. So we also see what's possibly starting to happen with the sun is because its own plasma is being absorbed by these objects whilst it's absorbing plasma from these objects. So the sun starts to look much darker than it usually does because this plasma does not belong to it. It belongs to a much lower energy stellar core. So this is what I see is happening in any system where you have at least one object that has gone through the aging process and is left with very little energy and cannot emit much light. There is an exchange between the brighter objects and the less bright objects until all the objects in the system emit light with exactly the same brightness. So this is why our sun is getting darker and darker. And this to me is evidence of it absorbing the plasma from this object and becoming darker. We see a part of it that has become much darker.
Yeah, these are pretty good high definition photographs that I was able to capture yesterday, and
they are amazing, Scott. The high definition is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And to me, it's absolutely amazing to see what's actually happening to the sun. It's not actually a good thing that is happening to our sun, but to me, it's explains a lot of what has been going on. And these objects have been coming into the solar system for many years now. And I have been saying for a while that the sun is almost turning into a coronal hole. And it does have a lot of coronal holes, but this is more than a coronal hole. This is actually plasma on the sun that is emitting a light of a much, which is not nearly as bright as the light that it usually emits. So this shows that possibly the composition or whatever nuclei we may have here may be different from what we usually have. We can see that over here as well, the difference in the color. It's darker than usual.
Yeah, that was just a very, very strange impression on the sun. And this occurred right after the last huge coronal mass ejection. To me, I mean, I immediately referred to it as a huge scar. Like just that's what it looked like to me. Just this huge scar. And folks, I mean, these are the highest definition photographs that you are going to see on YouTube. You're not going to see these anywhere else. We're trying to get things a lot better as far as our information goes. We're trying to make things more clearer, more precise, and trying to give you different views on, what NASA sees, what they allow us to see, and what I can bring to you guys. And these I captured late last night. I just put a lot of them together in a quick video yesterday, giving everybody a clear view of this big scar. And right now, as we speak, that coronal hole, that sunspot is facing our planet right now as we speak. We're looking down the barrel of this monster right now, and it's just only my hope and my prayers that nothing occurs. It continues to decay and move on its merry way back around the sun to suffer a slow death. But these were amazing photographs that I was able to capture. This is the closest, most high definition photograph that I could take yesterday. And kind of looks like a big sunflower, but it's not.
Yes, it's a sunspot. And the area around it, the darker area, is actually raised above the photosphere, but then the dark spot actually goes for an extremely long distance into the photosphere, right down into the interior of the sun. So it really is a hole in the surface of the sun.
Yeah, that's kind of scary. And whenever I looked at this photograph yesterday after I snagged this one, the definition in
It's
this, and again, this is the sunspot. I just can't even begin to think about what happened on the sun that day when that big CME took off. That was a pretty massive explosion. Thank God we were not, we were on the other side of the sun. And this is kind of the defamation that it's left.
Yes, and as you can see, it's just not normal for the sun, even though it had a huge CME. It's supposed to be filled in with plasma from other areas. It's not supposed to leave a dark gash. The fact that the gash is dark shows you that the plasma that is there is different from the usual plasma that the sun had in this air or has in other areas. it's not emitting as much light as the plasma that the sun has in other areas. And if it had just left a gash, that would have been filled in by plasma from the surrounding area. So this is not just a gash and an empty space. This is a space that has been filled in with material, with plasma that is different from the sun's normal plasma. That's what I see here.
Boy, these close-ups are really, really cool to look at, you know, to see down the throat of this this huge sunspot. And again, it is decaying. There's still some action going on there. But, you know, some of the solar scientists say that there's nothing to worry about. I just, you know, I hope they're right.
Well, eventually we are going to get large CMEs that are Earth-facing, because what is happening is the sun is weakening. We have large numbers of objects all over the sun's corona. These objects pull on the sun's magnetic field line. So if they come close to a sunspot, they are going to pull on the magnetic fields there. And that is likely to cause a larger eruption than we would have had otherwise. So this is possibly why we've had such large solar flares and CMEs from AR 2665. And also the fact that the sun is growing weaker means that the same thing happens. That happens when a star runs low on energy and starts going into the red giant phase. It starts having difficulty holding on to its surface plasma, and it starts letting go of the surface plasma. So the sun would start having more difficulty holding on to its surface plasma. So again, we would get larger CMEs. Yes, this is a coronal hole.
Yep. And looking right down the throat of one of these coronal holes. This is a small coronal hole that has formed with a twin right below it, and this is on the left side of the sunspot. And these two coronal holes, they actually are expanding. They will be turning towards Earth in about, well, I would say probably 48 hours, 72 hours. One of them is actually, the lower one is actually dead on with Earth as it will turn. But you're looking at the highest definition that I could possibly get for you folks. So for the first time, you are seeing right down the throat of a coronal hole on our sun.
Yes, it's amazing, Scott. It's an amazing photograph. The definition is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, no, this is, I just showed you this in a different angstrom.
Yeah,
this is the coronal hole that is on the top of the sun. It has now stretched out downward towards the equator. And yeah, there was a question in the live chat, Doctor. Can that sunspot turn into a coronal hole at some point in time?
No, they are actually quite different. The sunspots are on the surface of the sun, the photosphere, which is way below what we see in the ultraviolet images. In the ultraviolet image, we're actually looking at the sun's corona, which is quite far above the photosphere. If I can remember, it's at least 500 kilometers above the photosphere. So these are completely different levels on the sun. The photosphere is what we think of as the surface of the sun, because that's the layer from which most of the visible light is emitted. And the surface of the sun is at about 5,700 Kelvin, whilst the corona is way above that, between 1 and 3 million Kelvin.
You know, I just want to say something here very quickly. I don't know if I've been looking at these images entirely way too long, but as I stare at this image right here, I'm literally seeing like demonic creatures and figures, like it's the depths of hell. I mean,
Yes.
I could see a figure standing up right here with his arms outstretched, almost like Jesus
Yes.
on the cross.
Uh-huh.
There's his head, there's a beard,
Uh-huh.
there's his chest, there's his waist, there's his legs.
Yes.
Oh my dear God.
That is strange. Do you know what else
I mean, am
yeah.
I imagining this, or can you see
Yes, I can see. I can see. It
his
looks like.
arms are outstretched?
Mm,
You could even see the definition in his
yes.
abdomen.
My goodness, you're right.
Ooh.
Well,
That's just okay. You know,
maybe we shouldn't go that way.
yeah, maybe I'm freaking myself out a little bit here, but that's crazy.
But what else I
Oh,
see is little specks. You know, like we see
dear God.
outside of the sun's corona, you see these little white specks all over the place. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh my God, look at all. Oh, look at the side. Look at the side over here. Does this
Yes.
not look like a bunch of people standing there?
Yes. My goodness.
Am I imagining this, or am I looking at these pictures too much?
Maybe you're looking at them too much. I don't think you should think of that, Scott.
I know. I mean, you know, maybe I'm going a little too far here, but you know, I mean,
But
all of a sudden, I'm seeing the depths of hell
yeah.
literally right in front of my face, and it's kind of freaking me out. Hey, folks, anybody there in the live chat there? I mean, can you see these things also, or am I just imagining this? I mean, do you see all of the faces over here? All of these faces over here, and they're looking at this figure with his arms outstretched right there. Oh my.
Oh my. I think the definition is so good that we can start and
Yeah.
see different shapes and things that almost look like they are alive.
Yeah, I got to get away from that picture.
I think so, Scott. I think so.
Yeah. These are just more high definition photographs, folks, that I took of the sunspot yesterday. And, you know, I was just trying to make sure that what we were seeing was truly a decaying sunspot. And this was just another view, a real high definition view of this sunspot. And like I said, it just looked like one big massive scar from the explosion that occurred on the backside of the sun before this sunspot turned back towards us. And as you can see, this photograph wasn't taken no more than maybe 12 hours ago. 12 hours ago, it was dead on with us. So hopefully within the next 12 to 24 hours, it's going to be moving off to the right and making another round around the sun. And like I said, hopefully it just dies off. But that doesn't take us out of the woods, because, you know, we still have another coronal stream. It's coming at us in the next couple of days. It's going to be a little bit stronger than the last one. And this is just something that we are going to go through constantly now. This is going to become an everyday fact of life here on this planet. And this is something that myself and the doctor want to bring all of you up to speed on each and every day. We want to continue to report on what is happening and what we're finding, and we want to bring the information to you so at least you know what's occurring. It's a sad time because, you know, some of these instances around the world with these very crazy weather-related situations and events, people are losing their lives. People are losing everything that they worked for, everything they had in a moment. It's all gone. And if none of you have ever had everything that you own taken away from you, it's a very, 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 very horrible feeling to lose it all. And this is occurring around the world, and people are facing these events and facing these dilemmas. And, you know, I truly believe in my heart, and from what I'm seeing and what I'm observing and what we're researching, it's going to get worse. It's not going to get any better. You know, we may have some good days here and there, but I think the majority of the time, in the very near time to come, I think we're going to have to be on guard 24/7. I mean, we don't have all the answers. We're trying to search for them. But, you know, there are powers that are trying to prevent this type of disclosure. And it's a constant fight and a constant battle. But that's okay. Me and the doctor, we're up for it. We know deep down inside that we have each and every one of you behind us. And now more and more and more of you are spreading the word, and you're getting people to listen. Hey, listen, folks, I get a lot of emails and people tell me, hey, Scott, you know, I'm talking to my friends at work about this, and, you know, they think I'm crazy, and they think I should be on medication. And, hey, I'm trying to sit my family down, and I'm trying to talk to them about this, but they look at me, you know, like I'm nuts. Well, listen, folks, like the old saying goes, you can't save the world. And the best that you can do is try. And then sooner or later, things are going to start to occur where the people who literally have their eyes shut, their eyes are going to be popping out like a chihuahua, you know, and they're going to feel pretty foolish. At the same time, they'll be scared to death. But for all of you that follow myself and the doctor and follow our research, and you see what is happening, maybe you won't have such an intense fear, because you'll know what is happening and you'll know what to do. You know, I truly believe that a higher power, your God, my God, whichever God you worship, will lead you in the right way. Because I truly believe that you're watching this information not really by choice, but I think each and every one of you are being guided here to learn about what is happening. I've had that belief for a very long time. This is the first time that I am saying this. But that's my belief. And I hope that, you know, that all the information that we bring to all of you sinks in. And again, like I said, if there ever comes a time in the very near future where you are in an emergency situation, maybe my voice and the doctor's voice will ring through your mind, ring through your ears, and all of a sudden the answers will be there in a split second, and you'll know what to do. This is your preparation. What do you think, Doctor?
Well, I agree with you, Scott. I know that I am doing this because God has given me this mission to do and to show people what's going on. And what is happening with our sun is a sign. It's a sign of the time we're living in. It's the end of the age. And Jesus will come back, our creator, and he's going to take over. But in the meantime, there are some hard times ahead. And I think the greatest preparation, the most important is to prepare spiritually, and that is to turn to Him, to run to Him, to go to Him for help, and to get to know Him better. So that is my message. I am using what I have learned over the years and my training as a physicist to bring the truth to the people of this planet and to tell them what is going on with our sun, which is really serious. And only God has the answer for everybody.
That is true. You know, I mean, I know we're going to go through some trying times. I know that gradually, things are going to get worse. They're going to get worse in different areas on this planet. Folks, there may be some portions of this planet that may not be affected at all. And then again, there may be portions of this planet that could end up completely devastated. So, besides thinking of ourselves, keeping the rest of these people in our hearts and in our minds and in our thoughts and in our prayers, it's kind of a good idea. I've been thinking about it now for such a long time about what is happening to people around the world. That's why myself and the doctor have been trying to get this information out to people in Brazil, because the doctor speaks fluent Portuguese, and I'm looking for several people in the South America and Mexico regions. And ladies and gentlemen, listen, I urge each and every one of you, if you live in a foreign country that speaks, other than English, because I'm not multilingual, and you have a YouTube channel, try to start translating what we're saying, if you could, please. That is the best thing that we can do at this time right now, is use the technology that we have available right now. Use your skills as someone who may be bilingual, and let's start helping everybody out. And that's one of the best ways, that's one of the biggest ways that we can start getting this information around the world and creating that network. Use your Facebook page, use your Twitter account, translate the information. Even if it's just a small portion of it, even translating and utilizing one of the doctor's reports. We have a lot of people right now in a multitude of countries. They are doing just that. I think that's a beautiful thing, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to bring everybody up to speed and show you what we're finding. And like I said, it's almost every day now that I'm being led directly to the evidence, to bring it to each and every one of you and show you, look what I found again today. And it ain't no damn lens flare, is it, Doc?
Definitely not, Scott. Definitely not. It never is. If God guides you to these discoveries, it's because there's definitely something there, and He knows it.
Yeah, pretty incredible. Once again, folks, just an incredible find, and I was pretty amazed when I saw this. And I'm going to put the original photograph up with the timestamps on it. The SDO, the Solar Dynamics Observatory, they probably already removed the photograph, but I'll check and see if they have removed it, because it is a time stamped photo, and they usually replace these photographs every several hours. But you know, we'll take a quick look at it. And matter of fact, while we're here, let's go ahead and just take a quick look at the SDO. Let's see what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll show you where I got it. When you come over here to the SDO website, you come over to data, click on the sun now, and you have your different angstroms of the views of the sun. And they'll show you different things: the coronal holes, the solar flaring, the plasma loops. This one gives you a pretty good perspective of that sunspot and where it is right now on this 24-hour, or excuse me, 48-hour loop. So let's just take a quick look at it. But I'll show you where I got the photograph and where the information came in from, if this will only load. I had some problems with this view yesterday. They just didn't want to show it to me. Seems like they want to do that again. Let's see if we can jump this one. Yeah, for some reason they're not wanting to show me that golden yellow.
Mm-hmm.
That golden yellow view. They did it to me twice yesterday. So here's your sunspot right here, and these are the two coronal holes that I told you. They're blending together. There's the massive one on the sun.
What I like about this image, Scott, is you can see the area that in the yellow, which is the 17.1 nanometer. You see the dark region above and to the right of the sunspot. And you can see here it's definitely not a coronal hole. So it's actually a dark area in the sun that's not a coronal hole. And that to me is very significant.
Yep, most definitely is. No doubt about it. I'm going to see one more time if they'll let me take that video. Nope, it's not available. That's a little suspicious.
Yes, I think it is suspicious.
Let's see if they'll give me an image.
We could look at the green one.
Well, they gave me the image.
Oh, there's. Yeah. Well, you can see the sunspot and the dark area around it.
Yeah, they gave me the image, and that's it. And it still looks pretty close to what it looked like last night.
Yes.
Most definitely. You can't see the coronal holes on this angstrom. Yeah. But let me show you where I got the other photograph. If you pan down, you'll get some more views. Now, here's the composite photographs. Now, there's no video. There's no 48-hour loop for the 211, what is that, 193 and 171 angstroms. These are three views that are overlaid. If you come over here and click on the 4000, right there. Now it's going to blow up a really big photograph if you click on it. See the little magnifying glass? Has a little magnifying glass. As soon as you click on it, it's going to explode right onto your screen. So you may have to reduce your screen a little bit, and then you'll have to drag it around. But this is the current view of that sunspot. It looks like there's some more action going on right there. But again, this huge blemish. And I know that was everything to do with that massive CME on the backside. Pretty amazing, doesn't it? Looks like a painting.
Yeah, don't forget there was a huge object associated with that CME. It was slightly larger than the sun. Remember, we had a live stream about that. So that's possibly the object that exchanged plasma with the sun at that time. And therefore, that may be what we are seeing here. It's that object's plasma surrounding that sunspot group.
You know what? Let me see something here. Let me zoom into this. I want to see if that object is still up there.
I don't. Oh, you see a little bit of an outline on the left side.
Right there.
But not, yeah.
Now it's a lot fainter.
Yes, it is.
But it's slightly there. I don't know if it's just
more difficult to see, but
yeah. But if you just peruse around here, I mean, you're looking at the highest definition that you can get, and that is the top of the sun right now, which is basically one big, massive coronal hole. Like it has been for what, like the last year and a half?
That's right.
Do you ever remember a time in the last year and a half where there wasn't a coronal hole on the top of the sun?
No, we haven't had. We've had coronal holes at the North Pole of the sun for years now, and we have another one at the South Pole. It's been there for years as well.
Yeah, very, 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 very interesting.
Yeah. Yes, I've noted the sun is definitely getting weaker. There's no question about that. And the coronal holes are getting larger, and definitely the coronal holes at the North and South Poles are now permanent.
Let's take a look at this real quick. This will give us another kind of a composite view.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a pretty big. That's a pretty big mark that coronal or that sunspot, that CME left.
It is indeed.
You can still see there's a nice big plasma loop and flaring right there.
Yeah, what we are seeing is the swirling and plasma loops, but they are darker than the normal plasma loops. In other words, they are emitting light that has a much lower intensity than the light we are seeing here. So this is, to me, very, very interesting that this is happening to the sun. But then as I see these objects exchanging plasma with the sun, to me it's to be expected, because if the sun's losing plasma to these objects and it's gaining plasma from these objects, we would eventually start to see plasma that is not natural to the sun, but comes from these objects on the sun.
Yeah, and here's the last image that we're going to look at. And, you know, folks, I go over these images with a fine-tooth comb every single day because I know what I'm looking for. And, yeah, once again, you know, first thing this morning, 4 a.m., I'm just awoken out of a dead sleep and sent directly to my computer to find that image. And now it's gone, but we've documented it. We've done what we wanted to do and what we're supposed to do.
Yes.
And, you know, that's that. We can clearly see very, very erratic weather around the world. There's no doubt about that. Let me just take one more look over here and see what's occurring over here. So, you know, they haven't updated.
Yeah, you see this image shows the sunspot group as well, but it shows a deeper layer in the sun, the chromosphere, which is above the photosphere. And you can see that the dark areas around, it's not as prominent here because this is lower down towards the surface. So it's obvious that whatever plasma we are seeing in the yellow image is in the corona, not in the layers below.
Yeah, pretty amazing photographs.
It is amazing.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to check on some earthquake information real quick while we have everybody here, because we were going into another one of these streams from the sun. And, you know, usually it's a day or two after we get into the stream of the solar wind, and we end up having these earthquakes. And right now we're looking at I haven't seen an earthquake up here in this area in a while.
Mm-hmm.
A magnitude 3.4. Again, very shallow, very deep earthquakes down here. This has been going on left and right down here in the South Pacific. Let's just take a look. 131 kilometers deep,
Wow.
magnitude 5, not too bad. Now, there were some earthquakes down here in this region that were 575 kilometers deep.
Mm-hmm.
Here is the Atlantic Ridge fault line here 3 hours ago, magnitude 4.6, only 11 kilometers deep. Very shallow. What do we got over here going on in the United States? Tennessee, magnitude 2.5, 15 kilometers deep. Oklahoma, they were getting a pretty nice swarm the other day. Southern California, well, they've just been having a barrage of earthquakes all through from Los Angeles down to Mexicali. And the dreaded Yellowstone. While we're here, let's take a peek at this monster. Got a magnitude 2.64, very shallow. And you could see the small earthquakes swarming there. I know there were a few earthquakes there the other day that were pretty substantial. Magnitude 4.5 in China. We got here magnitude 4.9, North Mariana Islands, 100 kilometers deep. Papua New Guinea, magnitude 5.3, very shallow. They usually get deep earthquakes there. That's very shallow, 10 kilometers. It's a surface earthquake. And there's been a lot of action right here in the north of the Caribbean, around Puerto Rico. And the Virgin Islands. Oops. Now, they had a swarm of earthquakes there the other day that literally encompassed the entire island of Puerto Rico, and then a few in the mountainous areas of Puerto Rico. Magnitude 3.32, British Virgin Islands, 28 kilometers deep. So they're definitely popping left and right. We got some earthquakes going on up there in the state of Washington, a lot going on in the state of California. Oh, we have an update. We have a lot going on up here in the curve of Canada and Alaska. A multitude of earthquakes. So as you can see, we definitely got some earthquake action. No doubt about it. But
no doubt.
We'll try to stay up on top of all of the information, folks. And we're going to go ahead and end our live stream here in a few minutes. I just wanted to thank each and every one of you once again for being here with us and sharing in the information. Videos on your Facebook and your Twitter. Talk about it a little bit. And again, help try to spread the awareness, open somebody's eyes, maybe even invite them to listen to one of our live streams with you. Even if you got to hold their hand, sit them down and say, listen, you need to watch this. You need to listen. If somebody just doesn't care, well, you could probably guarantee in a short amount of time, they'll start caring. Any last words, Doctor?
Well, as usual, thank you, Scott, for, for these amazing pictures and for the work that we do together. It's amazing. And I'd like to thank everybody who's listening and supporting us and leaving such nice and interesting comments. And again, I'd like to mention that it's time to get to know our Creator, and I hope everybody will prepare for what is happening on our planet.
I absolutely agree. I'd like to send out a big shout out there to my two moderators, Old School and Mr. Curious Unknown. I want to thank both of you gentlemen very, very much for helping me out. And, each and every time we have the live stream, These guys come out also with my Butterfly 52 whenever she's available. And I really appreciate the help, folks. It's very hard for me to keep track of the live stream and, keep track of people that want to come in and just, raise all kind of hell. And we refer to it as getting whacked. So, if you cause trouble in the live stream, you will get whacked. But anyways, old school, my man, Mr. Curious Unknown, my brother. I thank both of you very much for helping out today. And listen, ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you have your notifications all set up on your YouTube channel. Make sure you keep checking them. I do periodically hear from people that say, "Oh, I didn't get a notification, for the live stream or your video." Listen, folks, just make it a habit. Come back to my YouTube channel or the doctor's channel at least once a day, twice a day, whatever it may be. Pull it up on your cell phone, cast it to your big screen TV, watch it on your computer, whatever it takes. Stay in tune with us. And we may be back later on sometime this early evening with another live stream. The doctor is preparing several reports at the same time. She's very, very busy. And if she gets one of those reports done today, we will probably have another live stream early this evening. So make sure you all stay tuned. And once again, thank you very, very much for being with us today. And we will definitely see you soon. Take care.